I am Harmless Phosphorescence. Hello, everyone. This is Throw Smiley, and I don't want to see this podcast on your MySpace page later.
I'm Josh CC, and we built this to shut the hippies up.
I'm Brian Lesh, and I'm here to tell you about the dangers of in-flight icing.
I'm Allard Weber, and I came unprepared with a tagline. I'm the most famous mass murderer in the history of history.
You are, Al, and this is Harmless Phosphorescence. It's the podcast where we watch every theatrically released full-length live-action superhero movie ever made. We gather some research into the production and the source material, then we tell you all about it. This show is brought to you by our patrons. Patrons like executive producers Michael Beckwith and Atticus Burkett. Hey guys, how's it going? You too, gentle listener and watcher, can be a patron too. Just head over to patreon.com/harmlessentertainment. We got lots of bonus content there. We've got Star Wars podcasts, ones about music. We've got ones that are non-superhero movie ones. We do those every month. Later this month, we're going to be doing one on Boba Hotep. So stay tuned for that. And you may have noticed me mentioning, viewers, we are live streaming this now. Every week as we record, we will live stream the recording on YouTube. Just search for us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. And this week, everybody, we are watching Iron Man.
No one's allowed to talk? Is that it? You can't talk?
No, you intimidate them.
Good God, you're a woman.
Is it better to be feared or respected? And I say, is it too much to ask for both? I humbly present the Jericho. To peace.
Tony Stark. Now you work for me. What are you building, Stark?
Your eyes are red. Your tears for your long-lost boss?
Tears of joy. I hate job hunting.
Yeah, vacation's over.
Welcome home, sir.
Put up the scanner, will you? What happened over there? I had my eyes open. I want to protect the people I put in harm's way.
A man with a dozen of these can rule all of Asia.
Yeah, I can fly.
So the upgrade is complete.
Tell you what, throw a little hot rod red in there. Hey, good luck keeping up.
What's going on here?
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing. There's been speculation that I'm parading around as a superhero. I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
Iron Man! Woo! Released.
That was exciting when it came out.
I love the trailer as much as I love the movie.
It's a really good trailer. Yeah. It's
it
definitely
exciting.
Definitely is. And the use of Iron Man at the end there with the shot of him walking away from the explosion. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It was released May 2nd, 2008. It has a running time of 126 minutes. It cost $140 million to make. And it took in $585 million at the box office. Big hit. It was, more importantly, the beginning of the MCU. We finally made it, guys. We made it to the MCU.
Yes.
Wow. Our 73rd movie.
Freaking way to what a way to start.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. What a movie.
Well, we'll get to that, but it was brilliant for Kevin Feige and Favreau. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bold choices, and it killed. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It was. I was just blown away. I haven't watched it in probably 5 or 6 years, and it just blew me away again. So good.
Yeah.
This is one that I watch all the time. Still.
It's surprising. Like I've probably seen this 2 or 3 times before, and to watch it in full again, it was just still so good. Yeah.
Yeah. It really holds up. And it's I'd forgotten how much they do initially set up the MCU in this movie. Like in my memory, that was something they kind of tagged on a little bit, like just as a teaser. But no, it was really set up.
Yeah,
there are even side characters
and everything.
But Thoreau, I think you mentioned the box office. So does that mean it's time for the box office top 10?
It is, Al. It's time to play the box office top 10.
Al gets no points for being pushy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say it for once.
You got it, Al. It's Al's time to shine. This is the box office top 10. It's the game where we count down the top 10 movies of May 2nd, 2008. The guys try to guess what movie I'm describing when I describe it using only the Box Office Mojo description, leaving out any proper nouns, which I may need to do in order to keep it secret. Normally, I have the guys guess where this opened. Guys, all together now, where did this open?
Number one.
Yeah, so we're going to forego that.
Number one.
Number one. We're going to forego that this week, and we'll just jump straight into counting down the top 10. We ready, fellas?
Uh-huh.
This is the number 10 movie of the week of May 2nd, 2008. On the day that a serial killer that he helped put away is supposed to be executed, a noted forensic psychologist and college professor receives a call informing him that he has a limited amount of time left to live.
That he does?
Yeah.
The lawyer?
Or the noted forensic psychologist has a limited amount of time to live. This stars Al Pacino. If I remember, I vaguely remember this movie, like super vaguely, and if I remember, he's like in full on like form, Pacino mode.
Really?
Pacino's the psychologist?
Yes, yeah, Pacino plays the psychologist. The forensic psychologist with all right, I'll give you guys a hint. The title is just the amount of time he has left to live. How long does Pacino have to live, guys?
48 hours.
Josh says 48 hours. What'd you say, Al?
90 minutes.
Al says 90 minutes. Brian?
1 week.
Since I looked at you, tossed your head to the side and said I'm angry. The answer is 88 minutes. Al is the closest, so he gets 88 points.
That is another one of those things.
You went over.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You aren't supposed to go over.
Everyone else did, too.
Yeah, everyone else went way over. 88 minutes.
I'm always curious as to when the clock starts. Does it start when the character becomes aware? Or if it's like, shit, 88 minutes,
so.
We're already 20 minutes down.
Be like, well, I tried calling. Yeah, I tried calling you, but you didn't pick up.
Is that a phone call and it's just like, boom. That's why it's 88 minutes, because Pacino didn't pick up for 2 minutes.
It was 90 to begin with, and Pacino wasted 2 minutes. Yeah, screening his calls.
I wonder if that's shot like 24, where it's like, in real time,
minute by minute.
Oh yeah, I bet there's like a countdown, because that's just the right amount of time for a movie. 88 minutes.
Yeah.
I bet it's in real time for sure. So coming in at number 9. This was on last time when we talked about superhero movie. This is another number 1. Can you guys remember 1 week ago when we discussed a movie whose name was a number?
I remember what I had for breakfast.
It's about
like 20 minutes ago.
Cards.
Oh, 21?
21. Everybody gets... So you all three guessed almost simultaneously. So everybody gets 63 points for all three of those 21s.
That's math.
I'd like to split those cards, please.
Double down.
Number 8. Donna's senior dance is supposed to be the best night of her life, though a sadistic killer from her past has different plans for her and her friends. He's going to take them out to like Red Lobster.
Well, it escalated quickly. The first sentence sounds like a teen comedy, and then it's like, whoa.
I guess not.
A killer from her past, and this is like a high school dance, so it's another high school student that's trying to kill her, I assume? Maybe it's like a granddad friend.
A killer from her past.
From her past, she's 17 years old.
Yeah. Like,
well,
the kid who moved away in 3rd grade, she's like, I can't remember his name, but he's always trying to kill me.
He ate a lot of paste.
He's my arch enemy.
Yeah.
He's my arch enemy. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know.
This is a remake?
Studio.
It's a remake of a famous film.
Prom Night?
Yeah. The Prom Night remake. I never saw that one.
There's a killer from my past. Don't you mean a guy who's killed?
Like, yes.
Before.
And will again.
I love that. Because we all meet killers that don't kill us, but we know they're killers.
Oh, sure. Coming in at number 7 this week, a young girl inhabits an isolated island with her scientist father and communicates with the reclusive author of the novel she's reading.
Wow.
Sounds kind of interesting.
That's meta.
It's got Jodie Foster, Amber Breslin, and I can't read the last name on the tiny thumbnail.
The island of
Mrs. Moreau.
The island of Thoreau's made-up movies.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That island.
It's popular.
It is. It's popular with me anyways. I spend a lot of time there. Mostly they're prequels to the Star Wars trilogy that don't exist. Ask Jude. Every once in a while I'm like, okay, so imagine this. If Anakin had just started at 17, he's like, Dad, enough.
Yeah.
It's Nim's Island.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Is it like Nim, like the secret of Nim?
There's no H.
There's no H. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like the West Hampton Nims.
Unrelated. Yes.
Coming in at number 6 this week, a discovery made by a kung fu obsessed American teen sends him on an adventure to China, where he joins up with a band of martial arts warriors in order to free the imprisoned Monkey King. And go to jail for mentioning Tiananmen Square.
Kung Pao chicken.
Yeah. It's like, it sounds like Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
It
but
does.
Serious.
Yeah, exactly. It's called The Forbidden Kingdom.
Huh.
I don't remember it at all. Coming in, number 5 this week, the week of May 2nd, 2008. A devastated man takes a vacation in order to deal with the recent breakup of his TV star girlfriend. Little does he know, she's traveling to the same resort as her ex, and she's bringing along her new boyfriend.
This is the one with the vampire musical in it. In Hawaii.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
This movie's awesome.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And,
I like that movie.
Yeah, and I will forget to give Josh any points for that.
Fair.
That's
I
one
was
of the
gonna say it's the one with his penis shot.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, and what's his face?
Yeah, that's
they made the sequel
Russell
to
Brand.
Russell Brand, yeah, and he plays a character that they make a sequel about, or like a spin-off.
Yeah.
Really?
I'll just know, and then they made Get Him to the Greek, which is Italian, and that's a pretty good movie too. It's decent.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of that. This is one of the few movies that does Hawaii like really well. Like it does a good job of like capturing the culture without like an Adam Sandler version, you know. But
the bartender, the big black guy who he names like almost every fish like for each letter of the alphabet or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what's the national fish of Hawaii? And he just does the whole Exactly.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Or the triggerfish.
I never saw this movie.
It's a good movie.
It's good.
You should watch it, Al.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 4, after being mistaken for terrorists and thrown into Guantanamo Bay, a couple stoners escape and return to the U.S., where they proceed to flee across the country with federal agents in hot pursuit.
This is like
Harold
Return
and
to White
Kumar?
Castle. Yeah, what was that one?
Harold and Kumar escape from Guantanamo Bay.
And what's his face was in the Obama administration. Like, that's hilarious. Cal Penn,
He was. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was like a youth advisor.
That's right. Oh, Cal Penn. Yeah. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle holds up really well, by the way. It's still hilarious.
One, yeah.
Coming in at number 3, Oh, I forgot about this movie. Oh, my God. A successful single businesswoman who dreams of having a baby discovers she is infertile and hires a working-class woman to be her unlikely surrogate.
I know this one. Yeah, Tina Fey.
Yeah, it is.
It's Baby Mama.
It is Baby Mama, yeah. Our two lovely SNL ladies. And opening this week at number 2. A guy in love with an engaged woman tries to win her over after she asks him to be her maid of honor. Holy shit.
Is this like Man of Honor or something?
It stars Patrick Dempsey. Wow, he was still making movies in he was fresh off being McDreamy or whatever Mick he was from Chicago Anatomy. I don't know what Grey's Anatomy. I don't know what movie that was. What it's called? Maid of Honor. MADE. Ugh, that looks awful. And number 1 this week. After being held captive in an Afghan cave, billionaire engineer Tony Stark creates a unique weaponized suit of armor to fight evil. And that movie is Maid of Honor 2. So, that is our box office top 10 this week. That brings us to the rich comic book history of Iron Man. Al Weber, will you please tell us a little bit about that?
I will. I just want to mention that we breezed through the top 10 like really fast, a little faster than normal. Thoreau, you're talking like double speed.
You're just moving at half time, Al.
Oh, am I? Yeah, that could very well be. I have
time is relative.
I've had very little sleep.
So there's like I said, Jude made me watch We Could Be Heroes, the sequel to Sharkboy and Lavagirl. And there's a character in there who is moving so fast that he reversed time in his own little personal bubble, so he's in slow motion. His name is Slow Mo.
Huh. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think that's the situation we're dealing with right now.
I see. Yeah. So I'm Slow Mo.
Or possibly I am.
Slow-mo.
All right. So the comics. Iron Man, a.k.a. Tony Stark. Full name, Anthony Edward Stark. First appeared in Tales of Suspense number 39, March of 1963. In September of the same year, Iron Man would be a founding member of the Avengers, alongside Thor, Ant-Man, Wasp, and the Hulk. The character
I wish Wasp was just a guy who wore Dockers and had a yacht.
It's my right. It's an American.
Voted Republican all the time.
All the time.
The character was created by Stan Lee, scripter Larry Lieber, and artists Don Heck and Jack Kirby. Iron Man would receive his own title book in May of 1968, titled The Invincible Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah, Stan Lee loved to give them an adjective.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
The Amazing Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, the Invincible Iron Man.
Yeah.
I forgot which one we were talking about. Anthony Edward Stark was a wealthy American business magnate, playboy, philanthropist,
and philanderer.
Inventor and scientist. The Tony Stark character was essentially a non-crazy Howard Hughes with a healthy sprinkling of Errol Flynn.
I would say, if it hadn't been admitted publicly, Bruce Wayne as well.
Sure.
Yeah, some elements there. No, he's better at it than Bruce, but yeah,
that totally makes sense. Stark suffers a severe chest injury during a kidnapping
in Vietnam. The original was Vietnam.
In Vietnam originally.
Yeah.
And his captors attempt to force him to build a weapon of mass destruction, but he instead builds a mechanized suit of armor to escape. The original suit was a bulky gray thing, replaced by a golden version in the second story. The sleeker red and gold armor premiered in Tales of Suspense number 48, December of 1963, so that same year.
Oh, wow, that early.
Yeah. And that was designed by Steve Ditko.
Yes.
That's the classic buckethead looking armor, right?
What's that?
It's like the classic bucket.
The red and gold?
Yeah.
And it had the pointy things sort of at the top.
Yeah.
Wolverine shaped, like pointy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The gold thing kind of extended up a little bit.
Right.
Little horns.
That was a brilliant switch up, because original Iron Man, the bulky steel just it wasn't appealing I think from a little kid point of view, but then the yellow and red just boom, shot him right up there.
Yeah, totally. They really, Steve Ditko really slicked up the armor experience for all of us.
He really did.
Early Iron Man stories focused on the role of industry in the Cold War struggle against communism. Other themes explored included entrepreneurial autonomy, government supervision of scientific research, Tony Stark's alcoholism, and unregulated sexuality as a form of authenticity.
Whoa. I should have used that in art class.
I should have used unregulated sexuality in a lot of things.
I definitely don't want it regulated.
Yeah. Some guy with a clipboard standing in there.
So Tony Stark, he's pretty much just a regular guy with a genius level intellect.
Yep.
But his armored suit endows him with superhuman strength, speed, agility, and senses. The suit is capable of supersonic flight, is equipped with energy repulsors and missiles, as well as a regenerative life support system.
Regenerative.
Regenerative.
Yeah, like Dove soap or something like that.
Like constantly.
Rejuvenating.
Stark's cover story was that Iron Man was his bodyguard, a cover that he would use until July of 2002, when he publicly revealed his dual identity.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, how long is that? That's like 39 years. Wow. In subsequent years, Stark would serve as the U.S. Secretary of Defense and as the Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right. That was Tony's backstory was a little more cut and dry than I thought. There were a lot of details I left out. Because there's a lot that goes on with Iron Man over the years, but that's the nitty gritty. Moving on to Virginia Pepper Potts. Her first name is Virginia.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Everyone that knew. Yeah.
Everybody that knew. Yeah. Created by Stan Lee, Robert Bernstein, and Don Heck. Pepper first appeared in Tales of Suspense number 45, September of 1963, 6 issues after Iron Man's first appearance. Originally a brunette, she was changed to a redhead in Tales of Suspense number 50. Part of the secretarial pool, Pepper is promoted to Tony's personal secretary after fixing an accounting error perpetrated by Stark himself. Initially infatuated with Tony Stark, Pepper eventually falls in love with and marries Harold Joseph Happy Hogan, Tony's assistant and chauffeur. The couple adopt children after failing to conceive a child of their own.
That's Happy and Pepper?
Yeah, Happy and Pepper. They were a thing, and they adopted kiddos.
Wow.
Post 2008, so that's after this movie, Pepper would become a superhero herself under the monikers of Hera and then Rescue. After receiving injuries similar to Tony's and an armor suit similar to that of Iron Man.
Wait, so she had an arc reactor installed into her chest too?
No, well, she had like it was a chest plate. That was a thing. The arc reactor, like the thing. I think that was unique to the movie. The cylinder drove
being inside him.
Chest. I think she just had to wear a magnetic chest plate. And Iron Man as well.
Yeah,
Tony
there
Stark.
always was.
Well, I mean, his arc reactor
was
in his chest because of the shrapnel, so it doesn't need to be in the chest.
Well, I'm just saying because if she had a similar injury, I wonder if that was how it was.
Yeah, she had a shrapnel injury, but the comics, the movie differed a little from the comics as far as physicality of the thing that they had to wear. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Obadiah Stane. Yeah.
Do you think he might be a bad guy?
He
He
just might.
Like Doctor Doom. Like we have an appointment with Doctor Doom. Really? He sounds a little...
He's my ophthalmologist.
Obadiah Stane first appeared in Iron Man number 163, October of 1982. He was created by writer Dennis O'Neil and artist Luke McDonnell. And this, when I was doing this bio, is when I was like, okay, this is cuckoo bananas. As a child, Obadiah witnessed his father shoot himself playing Russian roulette, causing Obadiah to go bald and become a ruthless manipulator, studying and exploiting the weakness of his adversaries.
Causing him to go bald.
Like, all I wanted to do was play catch.
Like, immediately, just all the hair just shot out of his head.
And then he became evil.
When he saw his dad shoot himself.
So were they both playing, or Dad was like, "Hey, watch this"?
I think it was the latter. Yeah.
Just
hey, son,
play
you want to watch us play Russian roulette?
I guess.
His dad was like a gambler.
No doubt.
Yeah, you're gambling when you play Russian roulette.
Well, you're always gambling when you play Russian roulette. But he was a notorious gambler, and he thought he was on a lucky streak. And he was like, okay, Russian roulette seems like the obvious choice.
Yeah, a winning streak sort of ends once you leave the card table. You don't get to keep it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
All right. So as an adult, Obadiah became the president and CEO of his own company, Stane
with blackjack and hookers.
Stane International.
Stane International.
They're a dry cleaning company.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I will destroy you with Martinizing.
And he went into business with Howard Stark of Stark International. There was
and you combine their two names to make Stane.
Stane plus Stark.
Starkane.
Stark and Stane.
You add the first part of Stark and the last part of Stane. And you get Stane.
You get Stane. I noted that Stark's company went under the names of, over the years, Stark Industries, Stark International, Stark Innovations, Stark Enterprises, and Stark Resilient.
Ooh.
Looking up in the world.
That's got like a Trump vibe to it.
Yeah. And of course, their food division, Stark-Olay.
After Howard Stark's fatal car accident, Obadiah set his sights on acquiring Stark International, now owned by Tony. Tony relapses into alcoholism due to Stane's assaults on his friends and company.
This is the 1980s Demon in a Bottle run? Like the famous Demon in a Bottle run?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You are correct.
10 points to Gryffindor.
10 points to Thorodor.
Yes, I finally got some points.
Thorodor.
With S.H.I.E.L.D.'s help. Stane buys out Stark International, and Tony gives his Iron Man armor to his confidant, James Rhodes, while Tony himself disappears to become a homeless vagrant. It's like, I'm done being a billionaire. I'm going to be a homeless vagrant.
Yeah. I like polar opposites. Nothing in the middle for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to get like a nice apartment in town and just like
or like a cabin in the woods somewhere.
Nope.
He's just homeless.
Homeless vagrant.
Yeah.
I poop on myself. Live in a box.
That's the life for me.
While Tony is homeless and vagrant, Stane discovers Tony's notes on the Iron Man armor. He has a team of scientists decipher the notes and create the Ironmonger armor.
His notes. Dear Iron Man, I like your outfit. Right back.
Or like in 233 Athens. No, these are the notes for history class.
Dear God, this is me, Iron Man.
He's having his first period.
You see, when an Iron Boy reaches a certain age, they go through some changes and become an Iron Man. And then they get an Iron Bar Mitzvah.
So Stane creates the Ironmonger armor, emphasized Ironmonger, which he plans to sell or duplicate and create an army to take over whatever country he wants.
He uses that phrase in this movie.
He does. That's why I emphasized it, because
we're ironmongers, Tony.
He didn't emphasize it, but it was there. So, Tony Stark overcomes his alcoholism and recovers from homelessness, creating a new company.
Did go back to the fucking bank?
Yeah, exactly. He just decided to stop being homeless is what happened. He still had all that money.
Got the homeless vaccine. Now I've got a house.
There was a pregnant woman involved. That Tony didn't get pregnant. It was not his kid, but he helped save a pregnant woman, and he's like, "Oh, I need to stop being alcoholic and all."
I miss this. I miss saving people.
Like Tony Stark is not my lover.
Yeah. So he creates
a house party at 4 a.m. and Iron Man's on the couch and he's pissed himself and he's just hammered.
Oh, just the piss stain on the armor.
Jesus, Tony.
Metal suit just seeping through the seams. Anyway.
Oh, it's processed in the thigh pads.
Oh yeah, there we where was I? He creates a new company, Circuits Maximus. Circuits Maximus.
Not Circuit City.
Not Circuit City.
Or Circus Maximus.
With James Rhodes and a couple of other guys that were twins. I didn't write them down. I didn't recognize the names. I didn't recognize the names.
Winklevoss twins?
Yeah, that's fine.
The something twins. They build a new prototype armor similar to the original model. Then they construct the advanced Silver Centurion armor. After a series of supporting character confrontations, Stain dons the Ironmonger armor himself to confront Tony, who is wearing the Silver Centurion suit. Finding himself outmatched by Tony's new armor, Stain, refusing to be arrested and humiliated, disintegrates his own head with Ironmonger's repulsor ray.
Whoa.
Wow. Like his dear old dad.
Whoa, you're right.
Like his dear old dad,
He was
yes.
playing helmet roulette.
But he was pretty sure.
You would think there would be some sort of safety mechanism to where you could not kill yourself with your Iron Man armor. Because there's a lot of ways to kill stuff with an Iron Man suit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You just can't point it at your head and shoot it. Like the robot suit would like move your neck out of the way.
Well, yeah, because you could. There's a lot of times you could accidentally have the palm of your hand facing towards your head.
Yeah, that seems like a big oversight.
Yeah.
All right, moving into the lightning round.
All right,
because we had a lot of characters. We'll probably talk about James Rhodes at some other point in greater length, but James Rhodes, James Rupert Rhodey Rhodes, first appeared in Iron Man number 118, January of 1979. He's going to be War Machine someday.
Someday, kid.
Sorry, Terrence.
Yeah, Terrence Howard will never be War Machine.
I'm sad about that because I liked Terrence Howard. I like what's his name?
I prefer Don Cheadle.
I prefer Don.
I like Don Cheadle too. I guess I prefer Don Cheadle if I was gonna rank them, but
I feel like Terrence Howard's. It's got a weird vibe in this movie, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He doesn't have a sense of humor that matches Tony's, but Don Cheadle does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's true. Okay. Ho Yin Sen. He's the engineer who helped Tony escape imprisonment in the first Iron Man story, 1963. He was Vietnamese because in 1963, Tony was captured in Vietnam.
Because that's who he hated then.
Yeah.
Interesting that they kept the name.
Jarvis.
Into Jensen.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Oh, they just dropped the ho?
Yeah. Well, and dropped the
they put
like sometimes
drop that ho.
Because I think it was hyphenated, right? Well, it sounds like
Jensen
would be a hyphenated name. No,
well,
it's just one word.
They called him Ho Yinsen in this, like it sounded vaguely Semitic, I think.
Yeah.
Ho was a first name. Yinsen was, or maybe Ho was the surname. Whatever. Jarvis. First appeared in Tales of Suspense number 59, November of 1964. He was a household butler of the Stark family. This movie is his first appearance as an artificial intelligence. The acronym is just a rather very intelligent system.
One thing that I always thought was odd is that in Endgame we see Jarvis the butler. He's getting Howard in the limo. Like, do you recognize that guy? Yada yada, and he sounded close to Paul Bettany, but I don't know why Paul Bettany didn't play the human Jarvis.
Edwin Jarvis, the character, that actor played Edwin Jarvis in the Agent Carter TV series that had Howard Stark in it. So that was a
okay. Yeah, that would be harder to get Paul for.
Well,
stuff.
Yeah, and Tony's household in universe, Tony's household system's voice wasn't based on Jarvis's voice. It was just kind of named after him.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it may have been based on his voice also, because it's just a British guy.
Well, yeah. Okay, there's that too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in the show, he has a lot of stuff that he does with Agent Carter. He gets into all kinds of hijinks. It's very fun.
Yeah, Jarvis is pretty cool in Agent Carter.
Yeah.
Well, even in this, they did the butler character brilliantly. That it was this computer and AI. It wasn't like the one from Spider-Man 3 we saw who doesn't remember anything.
Yeah,
and then like Alfred even, and that trope was used well.
No, I loved how much of a character Jarvis was in this, despite not actually being a character.
Well, and there's good reason that they cast Paul Bettany to do the voice. I think that they saw that being a direction that they wanted to head in, incorporating him further into the movies.
Jon Favreau did such a good job that there are even great interactions between Tony and a mechanical arm.
Yeah.
Dummy.
And even back then, people were speculating that Dummy would become Ultron. Which is funny to me to think back on this era of Marvel being like, wow, people were seeing outlets for it. You know, they were writing them in too.
Yeah, it was this little buddy comedy moment that they had. The arm and Tony.
Well, and he's in every movie. He's in every Iron Man movie. That same robot.
Right.
It is actually a character. It's weird to think.
Not even halfway through the lightning round.
All right, let's go. Lightning.
Christine Everhart. In the comics, she was a reporter for the Daily Bugle, not Vanity Fair. Harold Happy Hogan first appeared in Tales of Suspense number 45, September of 63. He's going to get more airtime in later movies, so we'll talk about him later.
Well,
Nick Fury showed up.
Spoilers.
The tail end. First appeared Nick Fury in the comics. He first appeared in Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos number 1, May of 1963. That was May. That was just 2 months after Iron Man first appeared. I found out he was portrayed by David Hasselhoff in a Fox TV movie in 1998.
Yes.
And modeled after Hasselhoff in the 80s.
Yes. And when we get through all of our superhero movies and are done, like with we'll eventually be getting to that one.
We're going to do it?
Assuming we continue doing this eventually, we're going to be getting to all those terrible TV movies. We got some Hulk ones, Captain America.
Hulk ones, yeah. Yes, Hulk ones.
Similar to the Hasselhoff
awesome
depiction, they did the same thing with Samuel L. Jackson. He was designed to look like Samuel L. Jackson. So when they approached him, Samuel L. Jackson, I forget the exact quote, but he's like, "Yeah, he looks like me. You made him look like me. Yeah, I'll do it, obviously."
In 2002, the character was re-envisioned in the likeness of Samuel Jackson for the Marvel Ultimate series.
Yeah.
So clearly it's like, hey, we drew this guy to look like you. You want to play this guy? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, is the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Phil Coulson. Philip J. Coulson.
Yeah.
Phil motherfucking Coulson. This was his first appearance ever right here. He did not exist in comics before this.
His first name was Agent in this movie.
Yeah. He wasn't Phil. He wasn't Phil yet. Yeah.
He's a great actor.
I love him. He will appear in several movies to come. 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He dates Aunt May in the animated Ultimate Spider-Man, voiced by Clark Gregg.
And he's the principal of Peter's high school at that same time.
Yes, that's right. He is the principal of the high school. He would be introduced into Marvel Comics in 2012, 4 years after this.
Yeah.
Just because he was such a great character. They just built on him.
He was like a fan-demanded character. Which is really interesting to see that happen.
Totally.
His arc is amazing. Yeah. Through Avengers and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I fell off a couple seasons into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he was great in it.
There are many iterations of the character, and they do a lot with him. They explore all kinds of shit.
I wanted to end on Phil Coulson, but there was one that I forgot. It's short, Raza. He's the terrorist guy. He's the first villain introduced into the MCU. He was introduced just a little bit before Obadiah Stane. He's the leader of the 10 Rings terrorist organization, and Raza himself would be introduced into comic in 2010.
Oh, okay. So he was from this film.
Yes. He was
interesting.
From
Yeah.
All right.
I have one more.
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
One of the scientists, when Obadiah is coming to get like some progress reports from all the scientists in the lab, Peter Billingsley, who's a good friend of Favreau's, he's Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
So we've seen him lots of times. Anyways, I can't remember the name, but I looked on IMDb. That character with that name shows up in Spider-Man: Far From Home. He's one of the techies helping Mysterio out.
Oh.
Wow.
Huh. Same scientist, the same name. So it took him a while to come back, but he was there.
See, that's
pretty cool.
God, yeah. Okay, MCU, man. All right, thank you, guys. That brings us to the film itself. Iron Man. Originally, in April 1990, Universal Studios bought the rights to develop Iron Man. That's the first time screen rights were bought to develop Iron Man. No one had interest in this until 1990.
He was a C-list character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I never was a fan.
He wasn't. Well, never. Yeah, he was C-list. He was not big in the comics universe. So that was originally, he was going to be made by Stuart Gordon to direct a low-budget film. He did Reanimator, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids series, a bunch of B horror and sci-fi movies. That never got made. In 1996, 20th Century Fox got the rights. And Nicolas Cage, surprise, expressed interest in playing Iron Man.
Okay,
I read the book.
So
Wow.
has he ever gotten to be a superhero? Because like he's wanted to.
Well,
since I've heard
Ghost Rider
and Ghost Rider.
Duh, Ghost Rider and Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's it though. None of these ones that he's been interested in.
Well, and Spider-Man Noir.
That's true. That was awesome. I think that's his best role. Honestly,
that was really good.
Yeah,
that was his best superhero role.
Absolutely, Kick-Ass was pretty good. So then in 1998, Tom Cruise came on board. Tom Cruise was going to be Tony Stark. I don't love it, but I can see how it would work, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, not funny enough.
No,
I wanted to say, so I did have a couple of Iron Man comics when I was a kid, and the Tony Stark that they portrayed often looked more like a Tom Selleck character.
Yeah.
Than say a Robert Downey
like
Jr.
a Clark Gable, Tom Selleck kind of like smooth, like
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
Tony had a mustache for early
and a volleyball player body.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he was tall. He was like a traditional, like leading man looking guy.
Is a volleyball player body a male body type?
Yes.
I mean, if anybody saw Top Gun, that's Anthony Edwards and Tom Cruise for sure.
Take my breath away.
Yeah.
So,
I'm already sweating.
But
not a Downey.
No. Robert Downey Jr. changed,
let alone a Downey Jr.
created something himself and redefined the character, and made the character what it was, far and beyond anything he previously was. Like Tony Stark,
with the exception of that facial hair.
Yeah,
that was the Ultimate's facial hair. That was definitely the Tony Stark beard and mustache.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah.
So Thoreau, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you were saying that it was what years in the 90s was it being under consideration for being made a movie?
Around 90 it started. Then, throughout the 90s there were a few things. Around 97, 98, Tom Cruise was interested.
There was an animated series from 94 to 96.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the same animation house that did the X-Men comic.
I think
Yeah.
it looks
I think so.
It looks very similar, yeah.
So then,
and there was an animated show in the 60s too, which we'll get to with the music in this.
oh my God, the music from the animated show was incredible.
Yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 instances where they play the theme song in this movie from the 60s show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll stick it in the podcast. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm resigning.
Okay, all right.
I resigned from my post.
So all right. Around turn of the century, Jeff Vintner, who is a screenwriter for iRobot, Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, and Stan Lee together co-wrote a story for Fox, which Vintner then adapted into a screenplay. They gave Tony Stark a new origin. It was like a science fiction origin, space rays and that kind of shit. And then MODOK was supposed to be the villain in that.
Wow.
Wow, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In late 99, Jeffrey Kane was hired to rewrite that script. And then in October, 20th Century Fox approached Quentin Tarantino to rewrite and direct the film. He said no.
Yeah, he's good for him. He's all, I got kind of like a vision I got going.
Fox sold the rights
he can drink and curse. He's a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Samuel Jackson's in it. They could just be dropping N-bombs as much as they want.
Oh, God. So then Fox sold the rights to New Line Cinema, saying that they just had too many superheroes and we can't make them all. Basically saying Iron Man's not popular enough and we don't care.
It's true. It was very true at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what year was that?
That was in 2000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then at that point, New Line started developing it with a script by Ted Elliott, who did Aladdin, Shrek, Pirates of the Caribbean. Terry Rosario, who was his writing partner. And then Tim McAnleys, who wrote The Iron Giant and Secondhand Lions. So they did a pass at it. They came up with the idea of a Nick Fury cameo to set up a Nick Fury film. In 2001, New Line entered talks with Joss Whedon to write and direct. That eventually fell through. And in 2002, they brought in David Hayter, David Goyer, and Mark Protosevich to do a story conference on it. They basically filmed them talking for a few hours about Iron Man, and then they took that and had McAnleys start writing a script based on what they talked about for 2 hours about Iron Man. David Hayter in 2004 was hired to write the script. And then his script with which he did with Alfred Goh and Miles Miller had the Mandarin as the main villain, Pepper Potts as a love interest. Then he rewrote that so that Howard Stark became War Machine and was the main antagonist.
Weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
No, you gotta kill the dad. To make a hero.
Absolutely.
Right. But like I was gonna say that in my notes, but not heavy-handed like the Waynes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's a car accident.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. But
Well,
he lost them unfairly and when he was young, and he could have a chip on his shoulder is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and as we see as we go through the MCU, he absolutely has a chip on his shoulder about his dad.
Right.
But in 2004, they approached Nick Cassavetes to direct. This deal fell through, And the Iron Man film rights, because people just weren't interested enough in making this, lapsed back to Marvel.
Christmas miracle. Man.
And that's how we got here. In November 2005, Marvel decided that as Marvel Studios, they were going to produce this film all by themselves. This is the first time they ever did that.
Wow. And they made what, like 800 million, you said, or 80 million?
500 something, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good for them.
They were like on the verge of collapse. This was on the tail end of creating the Ultimates and all that stuff, which was not wildly successful at the time because people were upset about it because it changed the tone.
Well, and all previous attempts had failed to make really high quality Marvel. You know, that's why the properties were being sold so constantly, because Marvel was running out of money. And
that's how Spiderman and Fantastic Four left. And
they just got sold. Highest bidder.
Yeah,
and they're the two biggest properties that Marvel owned as far as like comic book titles.
Right.
X-Men.
And appeal.
The Hail Mary pass that this movie is crazy for how popular it was and how well it connected. Like they knocked it out of the park. And if they hadn't, they would have collapsed in on themselves. But instead, we got the most popular film series of all time.
Yeah, if it flopped, nobody would have trusted him because, you know, like we all said, it's quite a big risk starting with Iron Man, not the most popular character. So if it sucked, people would be like, I'm not seeing another one of those.
The casting decision for Robert Downey Jr. itself is the biggest risk in this whole movie.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. That casting decision. So, all right, They in fact, they made several Iron Man animated shorts right before this in order to try to make the public more familiar with Iron Man as a character.
Smart. Do what they do best. Animate, or not animate, but draw images.
Draw things.
So, all right.
In succession.
Yeah. Very quickly. A lot of them very fast.
Sequentially,
It's just like a comic book that you flip really quickly through.
Exactly. So, all right. They hired Jon Favreau in 2006.
Another amazing choice.
Yes.
What had he directed before this?
Elf.
All right. So, Jon Favreau.
Swinging.
Yeah,
no, he did not. He did not direct Swingers.
That's right.
He wrote Swingers. He directed Made in 2001. That was his first directorial effort. Then Elf, which is a Christmas classic.
Mm-hmm.
Zathura. Have you guys seen Zathura?
That's the Jumanji
type
sequel, like spinoff. It's really good. Dax Shepard stars in it, which despite that, it's really good.
Dax is okay.
He's okay. I don't hate him, but he's
fine.
He's not a great actor.
Fine.
But
no, he's great. No.
But watching Zathura, I can 100% see how his sensibilities came to Iron Man and like Mandalorian. Like it's very much in those modes of like old school sci-fi fun adventure that really connects.
Okay.
And you never even, I feel like I never even heard him when he was starting out ever publicly say that he was, so into geek culture, like comic books and Star Wars. And, like I didn't know that about him, but he has nailed both of those things better than any super fan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then after
I think when Iron Man came out, I only knew Favreau from Swingers.
And PCU.
Yeah.
And PCU.
Well,
yes.
And
totally.
And Friends.
Can you warn me where the Pampers is? What?
Yeah,
and Friends. Yeah.
He was on that.
Like
he was also a clown in a Seinfeld episode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
And George is asking him if he knows who Bozo the Clown is. He's like, no. Oh, he was so popular. I don't. Then finally he snaps and he yells, "Why are you hung up on some damn clown from the 50s, man? Wake up."
Just
so angry in a clown suit.
Watching this movie, it felt so very Favreau.
Yeah.
From what little I knew of him at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've got a couple sets of screenwriters here. Mark Ferguson, Hawk Otsby, which Hawk Otsby, I have to mention because every single podcast I've ever listened to about this movie mentions how awesome that name is. Hawk Otsby.
Hawk Ostby.
Hawk Ostby, yes. So they're a screenwriting team. They wrote Children of Men, Cowboys and Aliens. They are the creators and executive producers for The Expanse.
That's where I recognize his name from. Holy crap.
Yeah. So then the other set we've got is Art Markham and Matt Holloway. They also wrote Punisher Warzone, which we'll be getting to here in, I don't know, a couple months, I think. Transformers The Last Night, Men in Black International. They have screenwriting credits as a team on Morbius and Uncharted, which are both coming out this year. So
cool.
Despite having two sets of writers, they didn't have a full script that they were ready to work with. So
the best part of this story.
Yeah. Yes. So Jon Favreau said he basically wanted to come in with this and make it like an independent film. Like he said, if Robert Altman had directed Superman or Batman Begins, he said it's the story of an adult man reinventing himself after discovering the world is far more complex than he originally believed. Which, that's this movie, all right.
I remember that. So Elf came before this, right? Yeah. So I remember him talking about working with Will Ferrell on Elf and his improv and the style of comedy that Will Ferrell did from Anchorman, bringing that Anchorman kind of, look, this is what happens and everything between these 2 points. I don't know. We'll do 15 takes and something will be best out of that. That's kind of the direction that he took with this too, which is incredible because so many of the Marvel movies since then have had that as this like underlying filmmaking element of like, we're going to kind of improvise.
Yeah. He kind of just let the actors go and write the script themselves.
While being shot. I mean, they were literally riffing their way through scenes.
They had a basic storyline.
Right.
For the most part.
And absolutely there's that's a large part of the charm of this film, which is crazy considering how planned out the MCU generally is.
There were remarks and responses and quips from Tony that seemed like Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, absolutely.
Seemed like things he probably says, like, I'll take a scotch, I'm hungry. Yeah. Like, I bet he's...
Absolutely.
I bet he said that.
This movie lives and dies on Robert Downey Jr. just being Robert Downey Jr. And that was such a swing at the time. So originally, he wanted to cast a newcomer as Tony Stark. Then he started, he approached Sam Rockwell as Tony Stark. But then Favreau sat down with Robert Downey Jr. and they talked about it, and Robert Downey Jr. got the role.
Wasn't Timothy Oliphant in the short list too? I thought that Oliphant was the second. That's always what I've read, is that he was supposed to be, if Robert Downey Jr. fell through, people anticipated him to.
I didn't see that, but that sounds.
He'd have been a great Iron Man. He's the only person besides maybe Sam Rockwell. That would have been really weird.
Sam Rockwell would have been a different vibe for sure.
Yeah.
His wife is in this. Sam Rockwell's.
Oh, that's right. She's Christy Everhart.
Right? Or you say no? No, Leslie Bibb, Leslie Bibb. She's the reporter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Christy Everhart.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Oh, the character's name was. Yeah. But what's interesting is he wasn't fully into his comeback, Robert Downey paralleled Tony Stark's. He got sober. Everybody thought he was a wreck that couldn't do anything. Got sober, started working again. Turned out he's awesome. So that was kind of interesting. I'm sure it was unintentional, but they were going through similar stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. gets cast. Robert Downey Jr. Got his start in the 80s. He was on Saturday Night Live. People forget about that. He was on Saturday Night Live for a season. He was a cast member for one season of Saturday Night Live. Yeah. Wow. And he's never returned. He's so upset with, because Lorne Michaels fired him. He's so upset that he's never returned to Saturday Night Live. He's never hosted.
Yeah. I know of a few people that, they never came back because of how shitty it was.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been a few people who have come back and talked shit too about Lorne during their monologue.
Yeah, and sorry to go on a tangent, but the funniest was Larry David's. He was a writer for Saturday Night Live, and Dick Ebersol was running it, not Lorne Michaels at the time. But anyways, there was a writers' meeting. Larry pitched an idea. Nobody liked it. They bitched and moaned. So he stood up angrily and marched out and said he quit. That was on a Friday. He sat the whole weekend going, fuck, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills or what I'm going to do. And he just showed back up to work on Monday and nobody said a thing.
And and he used that to write that arc for George, that episode of George in Seinfeld where George just shows back up to work.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr., his dad, Robert Downey Sr., or just Robert Downey, was an actor. I keep forgetting his name. His last name isn't Junior. And his wife's name isn't like Mrs. Junior. He had a number of roles as a child in some of his dad's films throughout the 70s. Then after SNL, he was in Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Weird Science, both of those in 85. Back to School, The Pickup Artist, Less Than Zero. He got the whole Rat Pack thing going. True Believer, Air America. And then around that Chaplin was like his big prestige role in the early 90s. What's that?
It was kind of a flop.
Yeah, it was a big flop, and that's around the time he started really having trouble with his substance abuse. He went to jail. He got blacklisted from Hollywood. He kind of came back in the mid 2000s. He was sober. He had a few relapses throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Mid 2000s, he got sober finally. And part of the reason that he kind of controversially has backed Mel Gibson after Mel Gibson's fall because Mel Gibson is the only one who would cast him after he got sober. And Mel Gibson kept telling him, people make mistakes. You can come back from this. I believe in you. So take that as you will.
Robert Downey Jr. is still not without controversy. He says things from time to time, and that's why he's not in the public square as often as a famous Disney-backed artist might be.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. That's why he's not, out there as much as like some of the Chris's.
Yeah, he's not as safe as Samuel L. Jackson, for instance.
Yeah, weirdly enough. Terrence Howard played Rhodey in this one.
Hang on. Robert Downey Jr. he played Albert Einstein in a Bruce Willis movie called That's Adequate in 1989.
What?
Wow. Skipped right over that one.
Yeah. Interesting.
Didn't he win an Oscar at some point?
No.
No? I thought he won one for that, like the musician, the soloist or whatever. Maybe that was
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Mel Gibson connection, was that from Air America?
That's where they met, yeah, and became friends.
And Scanner Darkly was kind of cool.
Scanner Darkly was cool. And of course, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was awesome. Yeah. That movie was great.
That was a pretty awesome movie from 2005.
Yeah, that was his first attempt at a comeback. That's when he started kind of coming back.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. So Terrence Howard played Rhodey in this one. He was his first role was in Who's the Man in 1993. He was Customer. He got a named role in Dead Presidents. He was a Mr. Holland's Opus. Let's see, Players Club, Big Mama's House, Angel Eyes, Crash in 2004, Ray, Hustle and Flow. That was a good movie.
That was a good movie.
Yeah. Get Rich or Die Trying, Idlewild. So he didn't come back after this one as Rhodey again because he wanted a lot more money than Marvel thought was worth.
What year did Crash come out?
3? I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2003.
So that was like that one best film, right?
I heard it was
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard it was the money thing, but I also heard that like Robert Downey Jr. didn't feel like they had any charisma.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's what I heard. Not like a shitty thing where actors are like, I'm not going to work unless he leaves. But he was behind recasting because he didn't quite feel that spark that we mentioned.
Yeah, I mean they didn't click. Not like Don Cheadle clicked.
I couldn't see him making any of the jokes that Don Cheadle made throughout his arc. Right.
No.
You know?
Or like being in Endgame, like being on that planet with Nebula waiting for the just like it's kind of hard out here for pimp when you're trying to pay for the rent. Okay,
and I think he's most known for Empire because he's
that's
the lead in Empire.
Yeah, Empire. At this point,
he's
definitely.
Grandma Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Jeffrey Leon Bridges. His middle name's Leon Bridges. Of course, his dad is.
By the way, before you start with him, I looked it up today to make sure. Supposedly, the doctors are saying that the tumor he had has shrunk considerably, and that he's doing all right. So,
good.
Get better, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Get better. This dude, I love this dude. This dude.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to die when the story first.
Dude. He's the dude.
He's the dude.
The dude.
Yeah, for sure. His dad is Lloyd Bridges, famous for not knowing when a good time to quit sniffing glue is.
Crazy Bridges.
Yes. Those eyes, man. Lloyd Bridges' eyes are amazing. Brother of Beau Bridges, who... The Fabulous Baker Boys is a really fun movie if you guys haven't seen it.
It is.
Beau Bridges, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Jeff Bridges and Beau Bridges play a piano playing brother team, and they hire Michelle Pfeiffer on as their like lounge singer, and then there's like a love triangle. It's like a comedy thing. It's really good.
They find a treasure map.
But so yeah, he got to start in Sea Hunt as a kid with both his dad and his brother.
That's it. I kept saying Leslie Nielsen was on Sea Hunt. It was Crazy Bridges.
Yeah.
I knew it was an airplane, but anyway.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Then, he was in Last Picture Show in 1971. He got an Academy Award nomination for that. He was in Fat City with John Huston, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, the 1976 King Kong, which is a terrible movie. And then in 1982, this is what I first knew him from, Tron.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
1984, Starman. Let the children boogie. He was in Against All Odds, Jagged Edge, Blown Away. And then, of course, the dude in The Big Lebowski. He was great in The Fisher King. Oh, God, The Fisher King was so good.
Yeah.
That was so good.
I haven't watched that in so long.
I miss Robin Williams. Same here.
Need to watch that again.
Yeah.
I have it on VHS.
Maybe someday we'll get that into a monthly movie.
What year was that?
91.
Oh, we were so close.
I know.
1990.
90 is going to be for February. So then, of course, he was the True Grit remake with the Coens.
Oh yeah, he was Rooster Cogburn, right?
Yep. He's Jeff Bridges, man.
Okay.
He's awesome. Let's see. We got moving on.
It was really weird. It was really weird to see him hairless in
very weird.
Yes.
But
especially
watching it yesterday was not as hard as it was watching it back in 2008. 2008 it was weird. It's like, whoa.
It was super weird then.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, but the single funniest joke in this movie is when he has the FaceTime conference with Obi, the very first one, and Jeff Bridges not only is bald but has his shirt off, and he's leaning like this in bed.
He's laying down in bed. Yeah.
That had to be a directorial choice. Somebody chose that.
All right. So we got Gwyneth Paltrow.
It was sexy in a disturbing way.
We got Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
She's wow. Her family is very rich, aren't they? Her dad.
Bruce Paltrow?
Yeah, Bruce Paltrow. Her dad is big in the whole Ram Dass community. The whole Love Serve Remembers thing. Her cousin is Gabby Giffords.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah, second cousin, Gabby Giffords. But she got her start she was in Shout in 1991. That's Travolta. She was in Hook.
Well, you mentioned her dad, but her mom is Blythe Danner.
Yes.
She was in all the Meet the Fockers movies, but she was an actress for years.
Yeah, she was. She did a lot. She was on Broadway for a long time. She was in Will and Grace. She got cast. She was Wendy Darling in Hook as a she was pretty young.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Then of course, let's see, Seven, Emma, Sliding Doors. I actually like all three of those movies. A Perfect Murder. All of those are good. I like all those movies. Very 90s. And then there was Shakespeare in Love in 98, for which she won a Academy Award for Best Actress. It won Best Picture, beating out Spielberg. What's it called?
Schindler's List?
No, not Schindler's List. Schindler's List won. Not Finding Nemo. What was it?
Not Band of
the
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. I could not remember that name. Yes, Saving Private Ryan, which was some bullshit. Then, of course, Talented Mr. Ripley, which was great. Royal Tenenbaums was great. Then in the 2000s, she got a little uneven. Shallow Hal, Sky Captain. Both of those are... Yeah.
In the year 2000, she did an episode of Clerks, the animated show.
Oh, wow.
In the year 2000. She's not good, but she's not bad.
She's fine.
Sometimes she does all right.
She's a noted snake oil peddler at this point with her goop bullshit, but...
Well, you don't want to put crystals in your body, like inside your body? Please.
Well,
don't.
I saw another.
Don't put crystals inside your orifices. Don't do that.
If you want good vibes.
Let the people do what they want.
Let the children boogie. Sean Taub, we got as what was the character's name? Sean Taub as Ho Jensen. Let's see, he was on The Kite Runner. I feel like he had okay, here we go. He's in a bunch of stuff. He was in Bad Boys, Broken Arrow, Crash. He was also in Crash. Charlie Wilson's War, so he works. And Paul Bettany as Jarvis, the voice of Jarvis. He is married to Jennifer Connelly.
Yep.
He was really good in A Knight's Tale. A bunch of stuff. Paul Bettany, he's great.
He's also great in WandaVision.
He is really good in WandaVision. Yes.
Yeah, I saw what you meant about the Peter O'Toole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a British Dick Van Dyke becomes Peter O'Toole.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, there was some Dick Van Dyke elements, Lucy, Bewitched. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
I haven't seen it yet.
Leslie Bibb played Christine.
That doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah. Leslie Bibb played Christine Everhart. Clark Gregg was Agent Coulson. Prior to this, I'll briefly run him down. So he's been in a ton of movies. Fat Man and Little Boy, I Love Trouble, Clear and Present Danger. He plays a cop or an FBI agent a lot.
Fat Man and Little Boy, that was Tommy Boy, right?
Are you talking about Clark Gregg?
Yeah, Clark Gregg.
Yeah, he was Agent Casper in West Wing. That's what I remember him from.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let's see. He was in. He was a screenwriter on What Lies Beneath.
Interesting.
That was Jeff Bridges too.
Yeah. So
what does lie beneath? I used to make so many jokes, Josh. Did they ever say what lies beneath?
I think it's mostly like sand and some seaweed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just scrolling through. Clark Gregg was credited as super nerd in AI.
Yes.
Artificial intelligence.
Yes, he was.
Which I don't remember, but
movie.
I love that character name, super nerd.
It's pretty crazy, that movie.
Yeah, it is. That movie is really crazy. I'm definitely nominating it whenever we get to whatever year that was. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that kind of runs down our main guys. I'm not going to talk about Sam Jackson now as Agent Nick Fury, because we've talked about him before, and we'll see him featured again more prominently in later films. So that brings us to the movie itself. You guys ready to jump into the play-by-play?
I hate job hunting.
I don't know.
Cheeseburger first.
Cheeseburger first. Here we go, guys. This is Iron Man. We open on the desert. Back in Black plays, and we join a convoy of Humvees. Tony Stark's riding in one with some soldiers. We find out he's a famous playboy. He pals around with the soldiers. They're attacked. Tony's knocked unconscious by an explosion from a missile bearing his name. Then we see he's been captured.
It was an IED, right? Or was it a missile?
It was a missile.
It was a missile.
Okay.
It landed and then exploded.
So probably one of his own missiles. Very fitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. There's a shot with where they cut to it and it says Stark on it.
Oh yeah. That was the little bomb after he jumps out of the car.
Yeah.
After he leaves the safety of
the
armored vehicle.
Attack was an IED.
All right.
That's what I assumed too. But
a roadside bomb to be specific.
I feel like you're driving me to court martial.
There were a lot of funny moments establishing him as humorous and also intimidating in that first shot. The shot of the bomb, though, we revisit that idea when they introduced the twins, Wanda and Pietro.
Yeah.
In Age of Ultron.
Oh,
there was a bomb, and on it said one word, and she steps out of the dark saying "Stock," whatever.
Yeah.
Back when she had an accent. But it's interesting rewatching this, having seen all the movies.
I'd like to point out that it wasn't a very good bomb, that thing that said Stark, because he was standing right in front of it and it blows up and he's still alive.
So there's an argument to be made that it is a very effective bomb.
Okay.
Because outright killing your enemy on the battlefield removes your enemy. Injuring your enemy grievously and requiring them weeks of medical care is hella effective at destabilizing your enemy because they have to provide care for their people. So the argument goes both ways, that like if he had vaporized Tony Stark, like sure, but also by making him full of shrapnel, which we hear Jensen say later on that that's what those weapons do. And the only way to save people is with magnets.
Well, and they have no bargaining chip.
Magnets.
They kill. With magnets. How do they work, though?
Yeah. For real.
Well, I mean, but we find out, though, that they were hired to murder Tony Stark. So they actually weren't doing their job by just injuring him.
Yeah.
You're right.
He was supposed to be in the Humvee that got decimated, that got completely destroyed. Yes. And that's why he chose to go in the fun V we see later.
Well, yeah, good point. And also, they must have wanted him to be captured because Obi then gives a lecture to the head of the insurgents or whatever, about how they fucked up killing Stark. So I think they wanted him to become a prisoner of war there to justify more war action in the region.
Well, I think
they ended up using Tony Stark against Obi.
Well, yeah, and they basically just said, like, you didn't pay us enough to kill him. We'll kill him when you give us more money.
Well, he says in the video, you didn't even tell us
that it was.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Like, you didn't tell us we were killing Tony Stark.
Now
it's going to cost you more.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was really interesting, just back to the initial scene where you said, like, he stepped out of an armored car. He's shouting at all these airmen that are getting killed, give me a gun. And I don't think we've ever seen Tony Stark use a gun. We've seen him use an improvised gun, but him asking for a gun and not getting one is a really interesting moment for his character.
Yeah, it is.
It's like Batman using a gun,
It's funny that he says, give me a gun. He's not just cowering. Because he's not a fighter at this point. Like he's
a billionaire playboy,
Mm-hmm.
But he has a lot of hubris. So,
And thinking about that, thinking of that kind of person in the real world, they would absolutely have a gun on them, I would think.
Yeah.
If you were
someone who talks shit that much.
Yeah.
To strangers, he should be armed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get a title card, just like the quick, boom, Iron Man.
With the cool sounds, the metal rivet sounds.
Then we cut to an awards ceremony and we get that clip package talking about so we get that we find out about Tony's life. That's a clever way to quickly get us on board.
Yeah, First Circuit Board at 4 kind of thing.
36 hours earlier.
Yes, we cut back in time, 36 hours earlier.
Yeah, there's a lot of time jumping in this movie. I did not remember that being the structure of this, is that we jump back and forth.
Yeah, it's got the fractured.
This is the first time at this awards ceremony is the first time that we hear the Iron Man theme song. It's playing in the background as Obi walks up and accepts the award.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we hear it the second time when they cut to Tony on the casino floor where he's playing craps. I don't know, some sort of dice game.
Roulette.
That's right. But yeah, there's another version of that song that plays. So there's a big band version, and then there's a casino big band version, and then those are the first two. So.
So yeah, okay. We meet his best friend Rhodey, his mentor Obadiah Stane. Tony is not there to pick up his award. He's off gambling. Rhodey comes, gives him the award. He leaves the casino. He's confronted by an attractive young journalist who asks him about being a weapons dealer. He flirts with her, and they end up going back to his house.
What a scoop.
Right.
Well, he completely profiles her too, which is really interesting. That's how we see Tony's ability to really think on his toes. Where'd you go, Brown? Mm-hmm. I forget what school she says, but he almost nails her to a T, which is really funny.
She did go to Brown. I forget what
he said. Berkeley
school.
Oh, Berkeley. That's right.
Yeah,
Berkeley. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah,
but she went to Brown.
We learn really fast that he is in fact a genius.
Yeah,
a straight up genius.
But,
well, sure. So then the next morning, we meet Tony's assistant Pepper Potts. We meet Jarvis, his house's AI. Pepper shows the journalist out. She and Tony banter, and then he's roguish, and they go back and forth, and she gets to hold her own with him for a while.
Yeah, the shot when she wakes up and the window has all of the AI, the information feed from the internet or whatever. We revisit that later when he goes just integrate the house into the suit.
Yeah.
So that's basically laying that groundwork for that's where he has all this stuff already. He's already built
his
information.
It's amazing to me that that Vision essentially started off as Siri.
Yeah. It's a computer you talk to with a funny accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So he has to catch a plane. He drives to the airport.
That's why I thought it would have been cool to have it be Peter's voice.
What's that?
Must have been a delay because I said that a while ago. Go ahead.
All right. So
nothing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So all right. He drives to the airport where Rhodey's waiting for him in Tony's private plane. They fly to the Middle East. Along the way, they enjoy the booze and the girls on the plane ride. Then when they get to the desert, Tony sells some Jericho missiles to the military.
We get a Ghostface. This is the closest we get to a Ghostface cameo in the movie. Who is Tony Stark's out of Wu-Tang?
Yes.
His song is playing in the background. There was supposed to be an actual cameo. There's a deleted scene with him as a cameo.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, that's the song that's playing once the stewardess, his attendants are dancing and like drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Because I looked at him, I was like, "What flight crew is this?" You know,
right?
Tony Stark's hand hired.
Yeah, he did not hire them for their aeronautical experience.
Yeah.
But he bought special uniforms so they would look like stewardesses.
Yeah.
Okay. This was also the first of Rhodes. He would say, "I'm not going to do that thing," and then like it immediately cuts to him doing that thing.
This is the one character moment.
He does
that really works.
I'm not going to drink, and then he's drunk.
Yeah. The quick cut to dancing and
the nice irony cut. Yeah, absolutely.
Him shouting his story.
Yeah. All right. So after the sale of the Jericho missiles, Tony gets in a Humvee. We get a recap of the opening scene, some quick flashes of Tony being operated on, and then he wakes up. He's a captive in a cave. There's a car battery hooked up to his chest. We find out it's a magnet that's been inserted there to keep shrapnel from the explosion from entering his heart. He's a prisoner, and his cellmate is Ho Jensen, a brilliant scientist, and the one that did the surgery on him.
Yeah, so that was from the origin story, the shrapnel and everything. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
They did a good job of drawing from the source material.
Yeah, they did.
Well, and what a futuristic idea that whoever it was, Stan, Ditko, Kirby, whoever it was, but to come up with that as a storytelling device so many years ago, the 60s
in 1963.
Yeah. What crazy forward thinking. I know those don't exist in our world, but the science of it makes sense. So it's crazy they came up with that back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get a group of terrorists from the 10 Rings that enter. They tell him they want him to build a Jericho missile for them. He says no.
I wish the 10 Rings were just a Cirque du Soleil show.
He refuses to build the missiles. They torture him a bit. He discovers they have a lot of his weapons already. He agrees to build the missiles, though he knows they're going to double-cross him. And so he decides, under the guise of building the missiles, that he's going to build himself a miniaturized arc reactor, which is that just supposed to be like fission? Like, what is it?
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Well, do you remember
like cold fusion?
Yeah, something
kind of thing.
Well, kind of like that. In later movies, I can't remember which one. It starts with Iron Man underwater, installing that arc reactor, and then like welding it back shut, but to power the entire city.
Like, that's Age of Ultron, I think.
Is it Age of Ultron? Yeah. So he puts it in place, locks it in. He's like, now the whole city's on clean energy.
Yeah.
So they kept that.
So yeah, he builds a miniature arc reactor, sticks that in his chest. Then he and the doctor begin building an iron suit.
There's an interesting moment. Thinking, of course, this is how many Marvel MCU movies? This is the first of them. He asks him like, "Where are you from?" And he says like Golmeria or whatever. Or
Golmera.
Gulmira. Do you have a family, Mr. Stark? After he says, like, I'm going to go revisit my family. And Tony says, no. He says, the man who has everything, but a family. It's just an interesting thing because we see later on Tony, that's eventually what stops him from. Yeah. I mean, they built so many like paving stones to a developed character.
They did
years down the road.
They did so well arcing this character from this movie through Endgame.
In the first act.
Oh my God.
Even in the first act of this movie.
Yeah.
And his character is established, the ladies' man who flirts with his assistant, but doesn't have a family, but wants it. Blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah.
God.
Yeah. This was the first domino, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they just kept falling down. This movie goes into this movie. This movie goes into this movie. Brilliant. Never been done before.
Another thing that we will revisit in the other Iron Man movies, maybe. I mean, it's such like a fleeting moment. When he's the soldier in the convoy asks him, "Can I take a picture with you?" And he flashes the peace sign and says, "No gang signs. No, I'm just kidding. Put it up." We see Tony Stark throughout the rest of the movies flashing the peace sign constantly, like he's Richard Nixon getting off the plane.
Well, yeah, and he says, peace. Yeah, I love peace. With peace, I'd be out of business.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's interesting that is another thing that we see later on throughout his like character development.
Yeah.
But the line of the soldier in the Humvee was pretty good. He's like, "Would it be cool if I got a picture with you?" It would be very cool.
So all right, so he meets the leader of the 10 Rings who's getting impatient. He gives him until the next day to finish. So Tony and the doctor get Tony suited up. They're almost out of time, so the doctor sacrifices his own life to give Tony enough time to complete uploading the suit thing.
He starts shooting that gun right away. Like he's still in the entrance of where they've been kept prisoner. He's like,
he's not shooting at anybody. That's interesting.
Anybody. It's very much covering fire. He is Han Solo in A New Hope running down the hallway after the stormtroopers. Literally, that happens at one moment. Where
it was like he was testing
the room. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So
and the leader of the 10 Rings is Raza.
Yes.
Just to give him a name.
Yes, Raza.
And
since I mentioned it earlier.
When the doctor's dying, he says something very important to Tony, which I think had an impact, where he says, "Don't waste your life. Don't no matter what you do, don't waste your life."
Yeah.
And that hit, you could tell.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the moral of the story of Iron Man. It's like you can't just be a playboy. You can't just have a good time. You got to do something in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and he's like, "I made so many things that killed so many people. I have a debt to the universe."
Yeah.
So all right. So Tony fights his way out of the cave. He blows up the terrorist camp and then shoots himself through rockets off into the middle of the desert and to safety.
We get a cameo in the cave, and I wasn't aware of this. The first 10 Rings goon that he punches is Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine.
Whoa! I did not notice that.
And Audio Slave is what plays in the credits.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting that they like used his song and he was in the movie.
That's awesome.
And Iron Man is a machine.
Yeah. So I mean, and we
Rage again.
Oh my God. Well, we get
That's funny.
I mean, we get Ghostface and Tom Morello in this movie. There's a lot of like cred in this movie. Like this is not just like a nerdy superhero movie. This is like understanding the superhero culture reaches well beyond teenage kids in their bedrooms reading comic books. Like it has had an impact on people.
That's why Jon Favreau was like, "Here, hold my beer," and just made the fucking best superhero movie. Yeah.
It was insane. So I would like to point out the last two Marvel movies we did was Silver Surfer and Spidey 3.
Oof.
Like
this
and X-Men 3
and X-Men 3. This seems like it's and Ghost Rider. This seems like it's from a different decade compared to those.
This movie stands up to anything that's been made in the last 10 years. Like
I remember saying when this came out, like finally somebody understands what it is we've wanted all this time.
Yeah. I remember seeing this opening night and going back the next day to watch it.
Yeah.
I literally was like, I've got to go back and see that again tomorrow. That was incredible.
It was like, thank God someone finally got it. Somebody finally understood what the appeal of these things are.
Right.
Not John Ritter with a fucking mask, COVID mask on. Just like, that's not what we're into.
No, and and it's not cheesy and it's not super dark. No. It hits this like it hits this sweet spot of like comic silliness, but realistic, but also not like uber dark DC bullshit.
We get camp where it's necessary, where it like works. Yeah, I mean,
it's funny throughout.
Like, action packed.
Well, and it's like sprinkling. It's like other than Christopher Nolan, somebody finally said, "Hey, what if we just make a good movie?"
Yeah, right. What would this be like in real life?
Yeah,
that's the realism. Or even this is what made it,
or even a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Regardless of the subject matter,
robot.
Yeah. Regardless of the subject matter, what if the movie itself is just good?
Yeah.
Well, and has the constraints of a real world, a real universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were laying bricks.
Yeah,
as they went, for sure.
If this had been the only one, we would still look back on this movie being like, how did they make this super amazing movie and nothing else?
Yeah. You're right. It's not even the best of the lot, but how important it was.
How important. All right. So he's found by Rhodey out in the desert. He's flown back home where he's reunited with Pepper and Obadiah. We meet.
Okay, real quick. Him coming out of the carrier in the wheelchair absolutely reminded me of him. He and Nebula landing in Endgame.
Absolutely.
Emaciated and dying, and like Rhodey's there and Pepper's there to cheer him up.
Watching this again, it had been so long that I hadn't really thought about it. But watching this again, it's amazing how much they mirror character beats from this. In Endgame,
more than like any other movie. This is
like a bookend.
Yeah.
Well, right down to I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
The first time he says it's matter of factly. Last time he says, "Don't fucking forget it."
Well, and that line, like a lot of lines in this movie, was not scripted.
No,
that was Robert Downey Jr. saying, "Well, what if I said this?"
Mm-hmm.
And they shot it, and it made it into the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it defined the series. But yeah, like in Endgame, he's trapped at the beginning of the movie alone with one other person.
Yeah.
He gets rescued. Then the ending.
Well, with no hope.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, there's no way he's going to get rescued.
Right. He could have died in both situations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he might as well go out with a bang.
I wanted to point out when he was escaping in his suit of armor, he had like giant eye holes.
Yeah,
It's really fortunate that nobody like shot him in the face. And
Yeah, he had a little bit of plot armor in that moment
through the eye.
Yeah, he got lucky. So all right. So he gets some hamburgers, gives a press conference, and he says that Stark Industries is not going to make weapons anymore. Creates a big uproar. Obadiah immediately tries to walk it back with the press. Later, he and Obadiah talk. Obadiah is not happy about Tony's big announcement. Tony tells Obadiah about the arc reactor, and Obadiah tells Tony to let him handle the business side of things for now. At home, Tony makes himself a new arc reactor because the old one's malfunctioning. Pepper helps him install it.
Gwyneth gets goop all over her hands.
Coulson shows up and talks to Pepper. Instant classic. Nailed it right from the start. It just defined
strategic homeland and intervention. Logistics division. And enforcement logistics division.
Strategic Homeland Intervention and Enforcement Logistics Division.
Well, it's not the original acronym for SHIELD. It has had at least 4.
No,
this is the final one, which is the best one out of all of them.
Yeah.
But Gwyneth and Coulson become friends, and they even show that in future movies. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome.
Well, and this shows the passive nature of SHIELD at this point, too.
Right.
SHIELD is very much working in the background. They're not doing anything actively. Yeah, let's just set up let's set up a meeting, blah, blah, blah. Later on in the movies, I mean, SHIELD is like fascist level of control.
Yeah.
Well, they're Hydra. That's why I was going to ask. I know they didn't show us anything, but according to their timeline, was S.H.I.E.L.D. already Hydra?
Oh yeah,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
had been
Hydra the whole time. They had like the seeds of Hydra
since the beginning.
The whole time
for decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we see that in not to keep revisiting Endgame, but Howard Stark is looking for Arnim Zola in the basement when he runs into Tony. Arnim, you down here? Arnim, is that you? Who is the heart of the Hydra? Invasion of.
Oh, right, that guy.
Yeah,
that little guy.
I'm Swiss, not German. That guy. Anyways.
All right. So he tells Pepper to destroy the old arc reactor. Then Tony visits Rhodey, tells him he's working on something big. Rhodey's all angry about Tony's press conference. Then in his private lab, Tony begins working on a new suit with Jarvis. We see a little bit in Mark II. Calls it Mark II.
That's where we get the naming convention of all the marks throughout all of his suits.
Yep. In the desert.
Well, it's very important that they showed the progression of Tony and his technology. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so glad it didn't go from like Cave Iron Man to prototype Iron Man to nanobot technology.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm glad that was introduced later because he's a genius. He's innovating. I'm glad they did that.
And we'll get into it in the other movies. The suits really reflect Tony's mind state throughout.
Yeah.
That's true.
They really do a good job of showing that, like, this is his expression. This is his art form. This is his superpower. This is how he lives in the world.
And like the cars he collects,
Yeah, absolutely.
The scene with Pepper pulling out the wire, the magnet, like a trout, was freaking hilarious. I had to rewind it to watch it again because I was laughing so much.
And it's a great practical effect.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a prosthetic chest at like a 45-degree angle, and he's standing upright.
Again, I'd like to point out how well the effects hold up 13 years later. So good compared to the effects from the previous year in Rise of the Silver Surfer, where they're like these blobs flying around.
This is like Jurassic Park. That's what Favreau does so well is like, it's movie magic. We have to capture the movie magic aspect of it. It's not about explosions and impressing people. It's about making people suspend disbelief through movie magic.
Yeah. So, all right. In the desert, we see the 10 rings collecting the remains of his first suit. We get a building the suit montage and testing it with Jarvis. A little bit of Pepper in the lab, just a sprinkle of pepper. Obadiah.
Well, and she drops off the box, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a little later. But she brings him back the arc reactor, proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Well, and we see it. She delivers it, and then he doesn't open it.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like, she just drops it back on the counter.
So Obadiah arrives with some pizza, tells Tony that the board of directors has filed an injunction to take control of the company from him. Obadiah.
Always evil board.
When he's playing the piano, not to get into too much of there is so much fucking detail in this movie. He is playing music composed by Salieri. So if you guys remember Amadeus, Salieri was the king's musician until Mozart, and he was second fiddle to Mozart his entire life.
He was the king's official musician until Mozart. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Obadiah playing Salieri is very much,
perfect.
It is huge.
As good as Murray Abraham.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
So, all right. So, Tony refuses to give Obadiah the arc reactor. So he goes down to some more suit developing, completes the Mark II, takes it out for a maiden flight around Southern Cal. He built Jarvis into the interface. We discovered there's a problem with icing at high altitude, which shuts down the suit, although he survives the crash. All of that funny stuff with like the fire extinguisher and Jarvis.
Yeah. Well,
it's really good.
And Tony's first move is the first thing he wants to do with the suit is go to space.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to run before you can walk.
I mean, he is immediately thinking, I'm going to break a record with this thing, which says so much about his character. Not just that, like, I'm going to make a suit that's awesome. It's shiny. It's a hot rod that flies. what's the altitude record? I'll break it right now.
Yeah. What was the SR-71's record? Yeah.
I have to add that, we've talked about it in all the other superhero movies, that when they pay a big star, they can't just have him in a mask the whole time. You got to see the star's face a lot, which is always frustrating for comic fans. They revolutionized this.
Yes.
They showed him inside the Iron Man mask, but you could see his whole face. You could see the expressions he made. And then, whenever it popped off. But it wasn't a deal where, like, Spider-Man needs to get his mask off, like, in each act. So Toby can be seen. They made the new standard.
There is some incredible creative interpretation of how his head looks inside the helmet that we just forgive because you have the heads up display in front of us.
Yeah.
It's him in a dark room, with this like light, this blue glow. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And it looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it serves two purposes. You can see his face, but then you see the inner workings of the suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really cool.
Interestingly enough, I believe this will come up. We'll talk about it in episodes down the road, but I believe after Iron Man 2, he never actually wore a suit again. It's all CG suits from 3 on.
Yeah, they just had him wear the top the shoulder piece kind of thing.
Yeah. Like this one and 2, he actually wore full suits, but never again.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell.
The suit is...
And I always chalked it up to Nano. Yeah. Huh.
But all right. So let's see. Later, he discovers Pepper saved the original arc reactor. Meanwhile, in the desert, the 10 rings are reassembling the first suit. Then we cut to Tony finishing up the Mark II and its paint job. We see there's a big party being thrown by his company. Tony wasn't invited, so he decides to go anyways.
He uses a gold titanium alloy that they use on the satellites.
Mm-hmm.
The Seraphim satellite.
The Seraphim satellites. I don't know. I didn't look that up to see if that's a real thing, but yeah, to solve the icing problem.
Yeah. So in aircraft, there are 2 ways generally that airplanes defeat icing, which is like heating or alcohol. So having a conductive surface, he probably just ran voltage through it and heated up titanium, which heats up quickly and easily and retains structure under high heat, that kind of thing. So makes sense.
Yeah.
Titanium's good for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's lightweight.
And good for you too.
You can make a little house out of it. You can mix some drinks.
I want to get titanium teeth.
Oh wow, like Jaws.
I want vibranium teeth.
I have titanium chopsticks. Best investment ever.
Did anyone notice the gala how Tony pulled up to the curb and got out, and it was such a Bruce Wayne moment, especially the one in Dark Knight where he goes in to have dinner with Maggie and Harvey. But yeah, just like pulls up, doesn't pay attention to parallel parking, a little bit on the curb, steps out, everyone's shocked. It was just such a Bruce Wayne Playboy.
Yeah. Total Bruce Wayne move. John
Favreau was in Batman, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was one of the circus performers. That's right.
One of the clowns.
Yep. All right. Let's see. He arrives at the party. Agent Coulson introduces himself to him. He agrees to a meeting, kind of offhandedly.
Did you guys notice that we've got a ball. We've got a benefit ball.
Oh, yes, we do, don't we?
And it's at the Disney Concert Hall.
Yeah, I noticed that this time around. That's really interesting. Huh. Was it always? They add that in post.
Did they edit it in?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. All right. So, Tony dances and flirts with Pepper. They almost kiss. Then he goes to get them a drink, and the reporter from the beginning of the movie confronts him about the town of
Gurlami.
It's the town that Ho Yinsen was from. It's being destroyed by the 10 rings with his weapons. Tony confronts Obadiah, who tells him that the company has been selling weapons to the Ten Rings, and Obadiah was the one who filed the injunction to get rid of Tony.
That chick is a better journalist than Lois Lane in every movie.
Absolutely.
She's on the Eiffel Tower.
And she works for Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually does some pretty good reporting these days.
Yeah, they do.
They break stories. Yeah, they do.
It was Gulmira.
Gulmira. If she was doing Lois Lane, she would have personally gone to Gulmira in order to infiltrate the Ten Rings.
Right. Gotten herself captured.
Yeah.
And then Iron Man would have had to have rescued her.
But he wasn't Iron Man yet, so she's just like, any day now.
Just kidnapped.
But they have the Jericho.
They do. They have
the terrorists.
They got the Jericho.
Okay. I would like to point out that Jericho was a heavily walled and fortress type city, and the first person to bring it down was Joshua. And so it should have been called the Joshua missile, not the Jericho missile.
Well, I think the idea was that they were saying that it could bring down a walled fortress.
Yes.
Like
I think so,
they were, but yeah, you're right. It totally Jericho was.
I just want a missile named after me.
Don't we all?
Like any boy, like any young boy. Yeah.
Skinny boy, pony boy.
All the boys.
Yeah. All right. So Tony decides to take matters into his own hands. He suits up, flies to the Middle East, blows up the terrorists, and saves the civilians of the town.
He leaves the party to do this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he leaves the party to go seethe in and work on his suit and be angry. But when he shows up in Gulmira in Afghanistan, it's 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 24 seconds when he lands, and we get our first full Iron Man introduction.
We're almost a full movie in before Iron Man shows up as a hero.
And it's
so trailers, so it wasn't, it was kind of a shrewd choice.
Yeah.
It was so good. I still got a little choked up just watching that first battle.
And this sequence is so short and concise and clean and well marked. I mean, there are no words said until the very end. He doesn't say a thing to anybody. It's all body language. Until he grabs that one guy through the wall.
Yeah.
Throws him down. He's like, he's all yours.
And that's
for the villagers. And
that's where we get the Iron Man voice for the first time.
Yeah.
Computerized.
And you would think that maybe it was revenge, but it's not. It was more of, my weapons are not going to kill this innocent village of people.
Well, and it's also the village that Jensen is from. And I think that all of those things connecting, he's like, oh shit, I have to leave. I have to go do this.
Yeah.
Right.
I also made a note that his robot face looks like a disapproving father.
It does. It does.
In this scene, this is something that I think is really interesting about Tony Stark. He's what is it that he says in Avengers? Do you have a plan? Yes. Attack.
Yeah.
That's very much what he does in this moment. But the guy that he tosses to the ground is using a satellite phone to call Stain. And so Tony's not good at data collection or information.
Oh, right. Intercepting. Yeah.
Well, he was calling, I'm pretty sure that he was calling Obadiah to say dude, what the hell? This guy shows up. What? If he had hung out for maybe 10 more seconds or grabbed the phone and been like, who is this? He would have put this whole thing together right there in Afghanistan. Instead, he drops the guy and flies home to go and relax.
Yeah.
So that to me was interesting too. That says a lot about Tony and his need for someone like Captain America to do the strategizing, the bigger picture kind of thing. He just provides the tools and makes everybody look cool.
He's a very seat of his pants kind of guy.
Yeah.
Well, he's not the quarterback. He's the coach.
Yeah.
Captain America's the quarterback.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Or he's the team owner, really.
Well, yeah.
All right. So, Tony on the way back has a run-in with the U.S. Air Force. He ends up
Very
What's that?
Very Top Gun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He ends up crashing one of the planes. He has to tell Rhodey that he's in the suit. He ends up saving the pilot.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, you were almost there.
Yeah.
I cut you off.
He saves the pilot, and then Rhodey has to cover up the incident in the press. Go ahead.
This was the second time. Tony tells Rhodes to just say it's a training exercise, and Rhodes says, "Oh, it's not that simple." And then irony cut. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just training exercise.
Yeah.
I want to say also about this Rhodey moment, because Tony calls him on his cell phone. The cell phone ringer is the 1960s theme song for the Iron Man cartoon. We already missed the third time that this happens when he beds the reporter. The guitar version of the song happens. So that's all four.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's rad, yeah.
All right. So let's see. Pepper discovers Tony in the suit. Obadiah travels to the Middle East where the 10 Rings guy tries to make a deal with him, but Obadiah uses a paralysis device to double-cross the leader. He has his men take the suit and kill the terrorists. And then he orders a suit for himself be built immediately. Then at home, Tony asks Pepper to break into Obadiah's computer and steal his weapons-selling secrets. Pepper thinks Tony is being self-destructive, but Tony tells her he has a mission to protect the world now. She agrees to do it. She sneaks in, discovers that Obadiah has the 10 Rings try to kill Tony, but they discovered his identity and held him for ransom instead. Obadiah interrupts her, discovers that she stole a bunch of his secrets, but she luckily runs into Agent Coulson on the way out, and they leave the Stark building together.
I love this moment because he is flanked by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Yeah.
This is the first time where we see S.H.I.E.L.D. be anything besides Coulson. Like, oh, it's not just a bureaucratic institution. It is like a law enforcement.
Yes,
agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clandestine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's a little bit later when they show up at the plant where he's making.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But I love how Pepper isn't like she immediately takes things into her own hands. She's not like just a damsel in distress. I mean, she's doing what Tony asked. She isn't that
backing down.
Yeah, she isn't backing down, but she isn't. You know, she's not that proactive, but she's not. You know, Vicky Vale just waiting for Batman to rescue her.
Yeah, she's incredibly capable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then she takes S.H.I.E.L.D. and goes after Obadiah herself. She doesn't wait for Tony to come do it. She's going to go arrest Obadiah.
Which is not the last time we see her take direct action.
Mm-hmm.
We see it in every movie.
Yeah,
where she is the reason why Tony survives.
Yes. This movie did not pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah, she doesn't talk to a woman.
She talks to his one-night stand, the reporter, but they talk about Tony. So,
yeah.
Okay. So, Obadiah's scientists can't get the arc reactor to work. That's Ralphie. Obadiah gets pissed off and subdues Tony at his home with the paralysis device and steals the arc reactor out of Tony's chest, leaving Tony to die.
And reveals his evil plan.
Yeah,
this is the first like horror element that we get in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, because we see it with the paralysis device in the Middle East, but once it happens to Tony, it is like spooky.
Yeah, you can see him
in his home
immediately as the thing is removed. Yeah, it was dark.
Yeah.
There was also a line here from Obadiah that, okay, so the line was, do you really think that just because you have an idea, it belongs to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the themes that they started off with, like back in the day, inventors, Nikola Tesla, the other guy.
Edison?
Yeah.
Edison, yeah. You had inventors and they would invent things and it would be theirs. And then around, come the time of the 60s, inventors they weren't autonomous. They were like corporations and stuff, and ideas didn't belong to them anymore.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that came with the bomb, the way that the bomb was designed.
Manhattan Project, It
became I don't want to say a public good, but it truly is public property in that sense, something that was funded by the government.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the ability to own patents was considered heavily when making the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because if you lived in England, you showed your device to your local lord or whatever, and then he took the invention to the king. Next thing you know, the king had invented it, and you didn't get dick.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. So Pepper calls Rhodey, tells him what's happening. Rhodey goes to check on Tony. Since he's not answering his phone, Tony was able to crawl into his lab, where with the help of Jarvis, he puts the original arc reactor that Pepper saved for him back into his chest.
Was it Jarvis or was it Dummy?
It was Dummy.
Oh, it was Dummy. Isn't Dummy just an extension of Jarvis?
It truly is just an extension of
Jarvis. You're right. But they gave him his own personality.
Yeah. So, all right. Obadiah puts the stolen arc reactor into his own suit. Then Rhodey arrives and tells him that Pepper and 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are going to arrest Obadiah. Tony suits up and heads out. Though Jarvis warns him that his original arc reactor is not powerful enough to keep his suit going. Terrence Howard looks at the Mark 1
suit.
The silver suit. Yeah, the Mark
Mark
2 suit. Says next time. Sorry, Terrence, not for you.
Right. But yeah, great introduction of War Machine without doing it.
Yeah. Then at the Stark Labs, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and Pepper are attacked by Obadiah in his suit. Obadiah is about to kill Pepper when Tony arrives. They battle into the streets and into the air. Obadiah ices up and crashes. Tony lands, thinking Obadiah has been defeated, but then Obadiah comes back and attacks him again. He and Tony are on the roof of the Stark Labs. Go ahead.
The woman in the Audi with her family. This was the second Audi plug because Tony was driving an Audi to the ball. But her reaction was so good. Just like the car's being lifted up in the air and Iron Man's putting it back down, and she just punches the gas.
Yeah. And she's doing the useless, like holding her kid with one arm as they're going.
Well, and this is so different from this trope, like we see it in X-Men 3, it's in Jurassic Park, and people just freeze and they panic. This lady, self-preservation, mama bear, kind of like, I'm just going to run over this guy. Let God sort him out, kind of thing. And Tony's like, no, and gets run over. It makes this shot, which is very simple, like car on a fulcrum, whatever, set back down to now running over our CGI character.
Yeah.
And having this, it added realism to it.
Yeah, it did.
Well, right, because he even had to lift the back end because he was going to get stuck on the muffler.
And he pushes it off and sparks are flying everywhere.
Yeah.
This is one of the more complex CGI shots in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And it's playing to a joke and to the reality of the people around them, too. To me, there was so much in that one moment.
Absolutely.
So how badass did Opie look in the giant version?
Oh, God, yeah.
Dude,
that was cool.
The first time we see him, he is behind chains, just like the shot in Alien.
Yeah.
Where the chain room.
The tinkling chain room with the dripping water where Brett walks in and is like, where you at, cat? I forget the cat's name.
The chain room.
And all of a sudden the alien kills him. It's the same thing. And then she's running away.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But that shot and the eyes light up.
Yeah. That's another horror moment in this movie. They incorporated so many elements of film magic because all of a sudden we knew the stakes were real. He's scary. Yeah. He's not just a mirror image of Iron Man. He's bigger, he's more dangerous and he's intimidating.
Yeah. So, all right. So, let's see.
Jonesy is the cat.
The cat, Jonesy, yes.
Jonesy's the cat.
Yeah. All right. So Tony calls Pepper and tells her to blow up the big arc reactor in the lab. She does it. Obadiah is vanquished. Tony's all right. The next day at a press conference, the press is named...
How great was Jeff Bridges' line, hold still, you little prick?
Yes. Jeff Bridges is so good.
He played that role perfectly. You're a golden goose, and I just got one more egg to take from you. Like, all these lines, just bitter, you know?
Well, and he knew Howard, so he knew Tony his entire life. So, like, he probably didn't like him ever, but how does that come up in conversation? So it's just like, you little prick. Like, all the shit I've had to do for you. Prick.
Yes.
When he pulled the reactor out of his chest, he says, like, I've been propping you up for 30 years.
Right.
The bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what does he say? He's like, this is your magnum opus. This is your Beethoven's ninth.
This is your ninth symphony.
Yeah, your ninth symphony.
This is your masterpiece.
Yeah. There's a lot of not even admiration, but just like hate. And
again, that he says it's your ninth. That's another Solieri and like like another
It's really
it's the one that made Salieri want to kill himself.
But all right, so
wasn't that laugh?
He tries to kill himself in that movie, I think, right?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, now you're confusing Mozart.
Yeah, Mozart and Salieri, or Mozart and Beethoven, but but
did I say Beethoven?
But all right, so the next day at a press conference, the press has named the unknown hero Iron Man. Coulson has arranged for an alibi for Tony. They're saying that Iron Man is his bodyguard. Tony and Pepper flirt a little. Doesn't go anywhere. I like that they didn't have like a big like kiss the girl moment, saves the day thing. Tony gets in front of the press and at the last moment decides to reveal himself, proclaiming, I am Iron Man.
This was improvised.
It's so good.
This was not written in the script. The script was for him to say the thing that Coulson read to him. And Robert Downey Jr. supposedly is the one who's like, why don't I just say that I'm Iron Man?
Yeah.
And they like changed everything.
Changed everything.
In retrospect, it's so good. It's literally the phrase from the song, I am Iron Man. It completely twists the movie on its head. It's just it's him coming into his own. Like it's just perfect. It is so good.
It changed superhero movies. He's the first that I can think of. Are there any other superheroes that we can think of that didn't have a secret identity by the end of their first movie?
Howard the Duck?
No.
Howard the Duck. Well, he was always, Howard.
And
Batman almost did in The Dark Knight, but Harvey gets up before he does and claims to be the Batman.
Yeah.
And Bruce totally could have said no, it was me. Like he went down there.
I'm Batman and so's my wife.
Standing up and saying it.
When he says I am Iron Man, everybody jumps up out of their seat except for Christine Everhart.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and this is
I don't know
one
if
of those.
she just figured it out before.
Those quick cuts, well, I mean, it's so obvious. Well, because she's the one who's giving him shit. Like, are we supposed to believe that this is your bodyguard? Really? Like, I've been to your house, dude.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
House is so technologically advanced. I love the quick cut at the very end. I am Iron Man. Boom, bump, bump, bum. Like the music in the credits. I just remember that in the theater being like, I want so much more of this. Are you kidding me?
It was so good.
They gave us so much while leaving us in anticipation of where we were going. If this had been the only movie, people would be like clamoring for someone to pick this back up.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple, they two pilots in the jets were called Whiplash 1, Whiplash 2.
Oh.
I don't know if it was intentional, but the villain of Whiplash appears in
Iron Man 2. Ivan Vanko. Well, and the joke that Tony says to Rhodey in the hangar when they're in front of all the other airmen says like, what was his name? Ivan. So that's another Ivan Vanko reference.
So all right, we get the credits. Then we get our very first MCU after credits sequence.
Yep.
I like that they like put it at the very end.
Yeah, not a mid. Well,
they made you sit through the entire credit sequence. It wasn't a mid-credit cut.
Yeah.
Well, that's somewhere around.
I like
somewhere around.
I missed it. My first theater viewing too. I think my second theater viewing, I was like, "What?
Yeah,
they're making sequels."
Yeah,
this is before the internet telling us everything and everybody discussing it
online. I have a story about that.
No, I was just going to say somewhere around phase 2-ish, they started doing a mid credits and a post credits.
Yeah,
right.
It was like post Avengers.
I'm not sure. Andrea remembers this story. It might have been Josh and Jared, but I think it was Josh and I, where we had seen this at the drive-in actually, and left before all the credits were over, but our radio was still hooked up, So we're getting gas like half a block away. And all of a sudden we hear Samuel L. Jackson's voice and that little conversation. We're like, what the fuck? There's more.
Wow. Have we seen a post-credit scene before this?
Yes.
X-Men.
Yes.
I think X-Men was the only ones, right?
No, there was Constantine had one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They weren't like this. They weren't like something that like blew the audience away.
Of a bigger world kind of thing. Yeah.
Furthered the story. The separate story. Usually it's a payoff for the movie you just watched.
Well,
yeah.
The Marvel did such a good job. I don't want to say retconning, but using what they did. There's a comic book run that happens from this movie up till something else. I forget, but Fury's Big Week is what they call it, and they follow Nick Fury through the events between these movies. And I don't think it starts with this one. I think it starts with Iron Man 2. But that's what that makes me think of, is like they have all this connective tissue that they just don't show us. It's like Star Wars. Yeah. It's like you just pick back up with the heroes wherever the shit is happening.
So yeah, okay. So in what is the end credit sequence, Tony arrives home. He finds someone in the dark waiting for him. It's Nick Fury, who tells Tony Stark he's not the only superhero in the world, and he's there to talk to Tony about the Avenger Initiative.
Already mentioned.
He says the word Avenger Initiative on screen.
So Captain America to come, Thor to come.
We've got Cap, we've got Captain Marvel at large in this universe. The Hulk doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, chronologically,
he will in like 5 days.
Yeah. Well, chronologically, there's, if I remember correctly, and we'll find this out in a few months. There's scenes in the Hulk where they reference things that are concurrently happening in Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
They're happening. So Hulk is chronologically happening at the same time.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Hulk and also, I mean, if we're looking back in the Marvel history after the fact, Ant-Man's real.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything.
Oh,
but Ant-Man exists.
Michael Douglas Ant-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. His wife is already trapped in the quantum universe or the quantum realm. Yeah, it's interesting that they were able to then go back and pad their universe out with all these characters by writing historical events that led to this.
Yeah,
particularly Captain America waking up in 2010.
So, I don't know. We talked about this a lot. I think it's time to go ahead and rank this thing. You guys ready?
Are we ready? So good. Cheeseburger first. I need a cheeseburger first.
I know what I'm putting this at if I have a vote. This is the best out of everything.
You're putting it number one?
My vote is for number one. I think this is better than Batman and Superman.
Such a solid movie.
Let's see. So, all right. At number one, we've got Batman Begins, then Batman 89, then Spider-Man 2, then Spider-Man. I agree with Brian. I think it's the best we've seen so far. Josh?
Yeah.
So number one, I would have said, I thought I was going to say number two, but yeah, I'd be happy with number one.
All right. Al, were you on board with number one?
I'm on board because it was so not clunky and just It made me laugh and smile throughout.
It wasn't aggravating.
I think this is a slicker movie than Batman Begins is. I think this movie does the comic book world a better justice on screen
It
than Batman.
It absolutely does comic books better than Batman Begins does. Yeah.
Batman Begins might be a better drama action film, but this is a better comic book movie by far, I think.
Absolutely.
It's hard to compete with even the other movies that came after it.
So, all right, we're doing it then. We're putting Iron Man at number 1 on our big list. Right there we go. And that means we are done with Iron Man. And next week, we are going to watch our 74th movie, Jumper.
Ooh, this has Darth Vader in it, doesn't it?
It does. Hayden Christensen. Jumper with Hayden Christensen. So that should be fun. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. And let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've ever caught me doing. This has been your host, Throw Smiley.
I'm Josh Cece. I'm starting off at 1% capacity, just the way she likes it.
I'm Brian Lesh, and I'm going to go eat that cheeseburger I left in my jacket pocket.
I'm Allard Weber, and I'll ride in the humdrum V. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye,
guys.